Is there anything you can do up there? Are there any changes that you?
We're looking at a lot of things right now and things that we want to do as far as going forward with the offensive line.
Anything you can share? At
No,
this point?
just
Any
like
lineup changes.
there's a lot of things that we're talking about and discussing and looking at.
And then just what's been the mindset for these guys coming back this week after a tough game like that?
Well, I think the biggest thing more than anything else is that we've got 10 games left, and I think the biggest thing more than anything else is we've got to focus in on taking them one at a time. I mean, that's the truth of the matter, is that the opportunities in front of us. There's nobody in the NFC that's really running away with any of the the later spots in the playoffs. So if we take them one at a time and see what happens, there's a lot of good things that can happen. But we're going to focus one at a time and get ready for Philadelphia.
As you start the week here, what's kind of your sense of the pulse of the team right now? Kind of 3-4, but obviously some tough losses lately.
Yeah, but I think it's in a good place just because of the fact that, we put ourselves in position. We had a couple opportunities to win some games that, unfortunately, we didn't get it done. This is one of the teams coming up. Philadelphia is a game that, we had a good opportunity in. So, trying to rally on that. And I think that's something that the guys are focusing on, is that's the opportunity.
And Sean just read off a long list of injuries to some degree. Is that kind of why you guys seem to have, at least when we were out there, a little lighter practice? Or was that just sort of the midway through the season?
It's pretty much the midway of the season as far as the scheduling goes.
Philadelphia likes to use the tush push. I don't know if anybody asked you that back when you first played. Why is that so effective, and why doesn't it seem like nobody can slow it down?
Well, I think it's basically the technique they use more so than anything else. The big advantage they get is they crowd the ball, but they know the snap. And that's one of the things that you've got to be able to do, is you've got to get underneath their leverage. You've got to stop their leverage, and then you've also got to stop the quarterback, who's a tremendous athlete, very strong-legged guy, and you've got to be able to stop him from going up over the top as well.
Sam Howell, we've talked about learning, growing. He's been sacked 40 times. What's his demeanor been through these 7 weeks? Obviously, it's not fun getting sacked 40 times, but what have you seen from Sam?
Well, the same thing you guys see. I mean, he's the same guy. He shows up, does his work, works really hard. He's very enthusiastic about his job. He loves playing the game. He hasn't changed one bit. I mean, he's learning and growing, and he's having fun at it. Obviously, if you ask him, he'll tell you just what you said. Yeah, it's not fun being sacked 40 times, but, he's doing what he can.
Ron, the fact that you guys just saw the Eagles about a month ago, is there, I don't want to say an advantage, but the familiarity with them, that you just played them, how do you approach that?
Well, I mean, there really is no advantage just because they have, for them it's the same thing. They just played us. But I think the thing that, we look at more than anything else is what have they done differently in those last few games compared to what it was like when we did play them. And that's what we're trying to, see. Now we're looking, very hard at those things, looking at, the numbers. We're looking at the scouting reports and obviously, paying a lot of attention to stuff that we see on tape.
Since Philadelphia is so successful on 3rd and short, 4th and short, how much does that change the defensive calls 1st and 2nd down to prevent them from getting into
that's one of the things you do talk about, is having more success on 1st and 2nd down. If you can keep them out of those 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, your opportunity obviously to get them off the field is big. So, we've got to be good early on, and we know that.
The no pads practice on a Wednesday, was that something you had planned going into the week, or is that kind of a response to the Giants?
No, that's pretty much what we've planned. I mean, again, we've done it in the past. When we redid the scheduling this year, that was one of the things that we targeted, that this was the week that we would start doing some different things. Now it's about maintenance and keeping the guys fresh. One of the things we talked about today, because it's going to be 80 degrees on Sunday, is, we got to make sure we're hydrating and getting ourselves ready for the heat.
The Eagles' pass rush, is there anything more you've learned? Obviously, you watched film, you played them a month ago, in terms of blitz pickups and things that you guys can do better than the Giants game?
Well, there are some things, obviously, that we did look at. The thing that, when you talk about the Giants game, you go back to what we did in the second half, and those are some of the adjustments, some of the things that, we picked up on and changed a couple calls to give these guys opportunities. And then I also think one thing that showed a little bit, too, if you watch – Sam also saw him get a little bit more involved and help out with changing some of those calls as well. So, it's a little bit of a collective effort, and it's something that, as we work on this week, it's about making sure we're sending the protections in the right direction.
What do your conversations with Coach Bieniemy look like after a game like that? How do you give feedback? Do you participate in his post game? What does that process look like?
Well, for the most part, it is having a discussion with them, sitting in on their meeting, and then going from there.
Are there any kind of big picture? I know you're not going to go into your changes, but any big picture takeaways on things broadly that you've
Yeah,
got?
there were some things that we talked about, and listening and discussing, and then listening to the conversations he had with the coaches. Obviously there are some things that we're looking at to see how we can adjust them.
Since you know what you have in somebody like Tyler Larson, is there any consideration to using him more or moving to him at this point?
There is, as I said, Nikki, a lot of things that we're discussing and talking about, and things that we feel can help us.
And then as far as Cody Barton, any plan there? Are you kind of waiting to see the severity of the injury, or what's?
We're waiting to see about both he and Sadiq later into the week before we make a definitive as to where we're going to head with that.
How important is this game, considering 0-2 in the division so far? There's probably going to be a lot of Philly fans. How important is this week?
They're all important. They really are, Sam. I mean, this is the most important we'll have up to this date because it's the one we're about to play. I mean, and that's the approach that we have to have, and that's what we're talking about. This is a big one for us. Next week will be the next big one for us, but the focus is Philadelphia and just trying to prepare for it, understanding what is at stake. And like you said, 0-2 in the division. You obviously get a win in the division. It's big. It's a win in the conference, which is just as big as well. So we've got to go out there and play good football.
And I know that they have a lot of talented players in that defense as well, but they have the new coordinator. What have you made of I guess, the way he approaches things and how he's been able to keep their success up?
Well, I think, first and foremost, this is a player's game. If you got players in position, you can have success. Secondly, it's what they do and it's what they've been doing. Now, the flavor and the way it's called is a little bit different. There's some things that tell you, he's a little more aggressive in certain situations, not as aggressive in other situations. He tends to favor a different coverage from what they did last year. I mean, those are things that you look for whenever coordinators change.
With the injuries to Mathis, I mean, you really haven't seen him on the field much in 2 seasons now. How much can he help you when he gets back out there, and how do you handle that, juggling all those D linemen?
Well, that'll be obviously a decision that we're going to make based on who we're getting ready to play. This week we wanted to make sure we got him up and got him going to see where he is first and foremost before we do activate him. And then once we do make a decision, obviously we've got to decide how we want to integrate him into the group. As far as being a guy that will be up on game day.
You've been doing this a long time, but you've got young players in there. How do you make sure they understand the week-to-week nature of the NFL and toss out the Giants and look for the Eagles?
That's exactly it. You've got to get not just them, but you still have some other guys that still haven't gotten past it or have to learn to get past it quicker. But you do want it to hurt. You do want them to understand. That what happened on Sundays, was the missed opportunities that we've got to get better at. But you do want to be able to get past it and focus in on now get ready for Philadelphia. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to take anything off the table.
Does that include the trade deadline coming next week?
That we'll talk about once we get there. All right. Thanks, Coach. All righty.